All right, so here we go. Welcome to being reintegrated. My name is Tim Wright. This is the spiritual exercises of Daniel Cramer, which you can see right here. Uh, Now, what I wanted to do was in these videos go over something that's not in the book. So, what I did is I broke down these emblems into common seven arrangements. We'll just put it that way. And let's see. I think you'll like it. Um, there are definitely some nuances to it. Now, Radicabor, which is on page, I'm just going off of notes and using the index, is on page 96. This is how the book should be used. It says, be rooted. Radicabor means I am rooted, but it typically refers to being a stage of becoming deeply rooted or established. In the words of Meister Eckhart, it could be put this way: God is at home, it is we who have gone for a walk. So, looking at that, we have some quotes to use from the Gospel of Thomas, number 87. Which I'm really happy about. Now, I recommend to get Louis Keizer's Kabbalistic Words of Yeshua if you could still buy it. It's a really, really good book. He did a amazing scholarly work on the Gospel of Thomas, and I think it's a must-have if you're doing Kabbalistic or any kind of esoteric studies. So, I get told that I don't respect Lewis's work enough by some people. That's not true at all. Without Louis Keizer, I wouldn't be sitting where I'm sitting with this kind of overview and everything. So the Kabbalistic keys of Jesus, or let me see what the book is actually called. The Kabbalistic words of Jesus. And so we're going to just go to Logion 87. Oh, there's no bookmarks, that's okay. There's actually, in my version, there is a click that I can just make. So it says, the personality of the flesh, i.e. the nephesh, that clings to the flesh will waste away, and the soul, neshama, that is attached to these two will become desolate. Oof! There's so much ground there that you can talk about. You could talk about the tikkun ha-nefesh, or the tikkun ha-olam, which is the reintegration and saving of yourself, or the saving of the world. Now, clings to the flesh will waste away. There's a password in the Elukoan that says the flesh clings to the bone. And it's so good. It's so good. So, you're all not members of that stuff. It doesn't matter. But this grouping is done for ourselves. So Radicabor is the very first image that you'll see over here about self-sovereignty. So be rooted in yourself. Now Keizer says, literally, shattered is the body that clings to a body, and shattered is the soul that is attached to these two. This is not a declaration of woe in contrast to a beatitude. The Greek loanword in Coptic is. It's hard for me to read that Coptic, so I can't read it. But it seems to be derived from Greek, which is lepo, to leave barren behind barren or wretched. And so most translators of Thomas render it, wretched is the body. But since this is an authentic davar, we need to examine the Aramaic words and concepts underlying it. We find that people or lepo was always used to translate Hebrew farad. You see how deep the linguistic element is on this? That Lewis did upper and lower textual criticism on this book. It's so good. Uh, let's see. It means to shatter, scatter, separate, become desolate, dissolve, waste away. It is the same trilateral root used in the name to name the mule, a stubborn animal that would often refuse to move on with the caravan. Thus, farad connotates many shades of meaning. Also, the Greek loan word soma is normally translated body. So we know the word soma. Sorry, I'm reading it in Greek, so it's a little hard. Bear with me. But we find that it was used to translate the Hebrew word basar, which means flesh, meat. The distinction between the Greek word soma and sarx was, or soma's body, like we said, sarx's flesh, was important in Pauline Christianity, since resurrection after death was understood to be of the soma, not of the sarx. It is only in late Johannine tradition it is with its anti-Thomasian pericope, and that's what this book is. Essentially, it was a pericope about Thomas putting his hands into the wounds of the risen Jesus. That resurrection of the sarx, or flesh, became an issue. The resurrection of the flesh, not soma body, finally became Christian doctrine, Paul notwithstanding. Let's see how much there is here. It's a few pages. So I didn't summarize this all yet. It's an excellent book, and it will guide you on your Kabbalistic understanding of these terms. So to be rooted is essentially to embrace the attitude of the Gnostic Gospel of Thomas's Logion 87. According to AI, we can read this stuff ourselves, but I don't have a mind that will allow me to use these terms and see through all the Logion at once to be able to pick the most appropriate one. So there probably are more that will relate to Radicabor and Latin, be rooted in English, but that's the one I chose. Well, AI chose for us, and I'm reading to you from Louis Keizer's book, The Kabbalistic Words of Jesus, which is a really, really good book. I can't keep saying it enough. It's pretty large, though. It's 332 pages, and it's full of this kind of material. He spared no time on this book. It's all very deeply researched by a scholar. And it's not very well known. It's not very marketed. Of course, he's a biblical scholar from the past and was a GM of his own initiatic orders, a bishop of the Independent Apostolic Succession, the Episcopoi Vagantes, and now is just doing his music in California. But before he dropped out of all of these societies, we'll say it kindly, because he's no longer really active, he made this kind of Hail Mary throw to the esoteric and occult community. So this book is amazing. I said it again. I'll even show you a picture right there. It's not my book. I don't get any profit on it. I don't get any royalties. It's just to let you know that this is an amazing textbook for going through something like this. It's got all the Gospels of Thomas's in this book, but they're deeply translated like this in Louis Keizer's. The Kabbalistic background. Paul stressed that soma, or body, or flesh, was as different from the body of spirit as the ungerminated seed was from the plant it produced. He referred to the incarnate personality that survives death in a psychikos, or mental body. It was like a seed that would dissolve and reveal the spiritual body. In Kabbalistic terms known to Paul, the psychikos body was the nefesh. The pneumatikos, or spiritual body, was the neshama, or immortal soul, and which was connected to the mortal nefesh by ruach, spirit. The soul, or neshama, served as body to the even higher principle known as the yechida, the divine soul of the soul. Thus the flesh was body to the mortal mind of personality known as the nefesh. The mortal nefesh was body to the immortal soul, or neshama. And the immortal soul was body to the divine yechida. According to the wisdom schools, the lower form of spirit that connected the nefesh to its body of flesh was known as the silver cord. The cord broke after physical death, and the nefesh would no longer be able to return to its body, since the nefesh was the source of vital force for the physical body. The flesh dissolved and decayed back into its earthly elements. The bodiless nefesh would survive for as long as 40 days or 6 weeks. After this, it would die and decay into its elements just as the physical body had done, releasing its immortal soul, the neshama. The soul then experienced a time of purification in the spiritual fires of Gehenna in the third heaven, which could be as long as a year in the case of souls that have been severely defiled. A true Sadiq would have already purified his soul in life and would not experience the fires of Gehenna. Then the immortal soul would enter into paradise to sleep until its next incarnation. In the case of a saint, however, the neshama awakened in the Kima and abode in paradise or higher heavens. In the case of a fully realized messianic saint of Yeshua, I would speculate that his soul served as body to his divine Yechida, which now shared the work of sovereignty with the Abba as a member of the new sanctified and fully perfected heavenly humanity. Logion 88 may describe that state. In this davar, Yeshua applies the Aramaic term farad, shattered, wasted away, disconnected, to both the flesh or corpse of a dead person and to his nefesh, or personal self-consciousness that survives death for a time. Both were shattered, dissolve back into their elements, or lose their means of attachment to a body. Using the language and concepts of Yeshua, the first line might be translated, the personality of flesh that clings to flesh will waste away. This was commonly understood, but in the second line he clarifies the meaning of losing the soul. The soul that is attached to these two will also waste away. So I wanted to go through this to show you the depth of analysis into just this image right here of Radicabor. That is the level of understanding that I would ask people to do on the spiritual exercises. So there's much more than meets the eye here that I can't possibly just give a 5-minute presentation on, because we're talking about things like the neshama, the nefesh, the yechida, the ruach. These are bodies as much as our body is our body. These are bodies in the subtle realms. And as a side note, recently I found in the CIA archives of the Stargate program that they were studying the subtle bodies as part of this program of remote viewing. And so these subtle bodies did not leave us. They're not an old, ancient way of understanding that just, we're too modern and sophisticated for now. These subtle bodies are literally the content in which we frame reality. So, it's said that we bring all this into our body, and we do, but the subtle bodies are what allows us to pick up what are called metaphysical constants from the world of stoicheia and all this stuff that we learn about through the esoteric schools. So it's to say that which is above, that which is in what Keizer called the mental realm, because the psyche is the mental body. So it's like a seed that would dissolve and reveal the spiritual body. So this was what happened, is they learned the dynamics and dynamism of the psychic body to reveal the spiritual body. It's they called it the Minkowski space. The scientists of the Stargate program called it Minkowski space, which you'll see right here, which was based on the teacher of Albert Einstein, and how you could locate in Minkowski theoretical metaphysics the location in time and space of something in a spatial content, someone, or a vision in spatial content that was not currently present. So the point is that these subtle bodies are not just something that's superstitious and we can do away with. They were the content of studies of the CIA. That's all I'll say about that, because, you got to go research Stargate to know all this stuff. Anyway, Radicabor, to be rooted, is, and that's declassified, by the way. So I'm not doing anything that the normal Joe couldn't do with a little bit of coffee and energy. But Radicabor, to be rooted, it refers to being rooted in our spiritual selves. And if you look at the image, you'll see that we have two hearts. This goes back to the whole, is our body holy, or is there a holiness that our body is not taking place in? And so the point is that there is a body that includes all bodies, all of our bodies, one body, and that's pretty profound when you start to break it down into what it actually means, not versus what we think it may mean, but the body of humanity, the body of metaphysics, the body of these words that we use. There's one body. And when you leak into that body, your body becomes aware of some of that bodily intelligence, primarily body intelligence of, the mental body, or bodily intelligence of the things that compose the mental body. Which I got to tell you, recently I heard a lecture by Christine Payne Towler, and it was to the Roswell Mystic Society. That's not their actual name, so you won't be able to find that. But they were studying the roots of esotericism, and in the roots of esotericism, which you can hear all about Christine on her Patreon, and is a bishop, an authorized bishop of Louis Keizer, who she is an Episcopoi Vagantes herself. Anyway, she was giving a lecture on this exact content, the subtlety of the mental body, and how the mental body is composed, and then how we get like a overview of the mental body categories, which she used the word stoicheia, the astrology, the alphabetical, and the numerical basis of mind. Pretty cool stuff. But it's not released yet. It was part of the seminar. But I've edited and listened to all of her Patreon videos, and I don't think she ever did anything so clear as this. It was a very, very good presentation. So that's why I'm showing you in Logion 87 and in Radicabor, which AI said relates to the root chakra. We're seeing some overlap. Now, yeah, maybe there is an area where we can say that it's not that way, and that's because it needs to be changeable in order to move into the other categorizations of the body that we've made, and that's fine. It can be all things and it can be not all things. But for me, this organization is very helpful. So I hope you enjoyed that episode. This is a free episode. And go pick up Spiritual Exercises of Daniel Cramer because it's a really good book. And I hope that we can walk through it. So until next time.